everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the We Give Summit and the Global Coffee Chat. I hope you all have your coffee or drink of choice, whatever time zone you are in. We are so excited to welcome our speakers from around the world today, from China, Israel, the UK, Chile, and Mexico. Before we jump in, a quick bit of background and framing for the next 50 minutes we have together. My name is Amy Weiss, and I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at OLAM, which means world in Hebrew. It's a network of over 50 Jewish and Israeli organizations working in international development and humanitarian aid in developing countries around the world, and they certainly know the benefits of collective giving. I want to thank Philanthropy Together so much for inviting me here today and for convening the conversation today and all the amazing activities for the month to come. I truly appreciate your partnership. Today, we will hear from giving circles around the world and how they've created and engaged and equipped circles within their countries and made giving accessible and had an impact on the local community. You'll have a chance to hear from 6 amazing speakers, their challenges, their triumphs, their tribulations. And after we hear from our speakers, you'll have an opportunity to unmute yourselves, engage in the chat, share your lessons for the group, and ask questions of all of our panelists. Feel free, as you hear our panelists speak, to drop questions in the chat, and we'll save them for later at the end. For now, if you haven't yet, please share where you're zooming in from. I know we've got people from around the world, and also share what you hope to gain from the We Give Summit and this incredible month of learning. All right, now let's get this chat started. Helen Lee is the founder of Dominos Philanthropy and is calling in from China. And I believe it's 10 o'clock at night. Thank you, Helen. So Helen, philanthropy in China is at an important and interesting time when individuals, young and old, are starting to turn to giving as a way of expressing their values. It's something new in the Chinese culture, from what I understand. Your work specifically focuses on youth and creating lifelong givers. Can you tell us a bit about the trends in giving in China and how you are engaging the next generation of givers? What have some of the successes and what have some of the obstacles been?
Well, thank you, Amy. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And my name is Helen. I'm the founder of Dominos Philanthropy Academy. Well, based in Shanghai. Yes, it's 10 p.m. here, so I have monsters ready. So glad to be here. Well, speaking of big trends in philanthropy in China, well, first of all, giving is not a new concept in Chinese culture, and we learned from Confucius teaching kindness, benevolence, but it has been pretty much on the traditional side, such as helping your neighbors and meeting immediate needs. So on one end, Chinese philanthropy is in transit from traditional charity to modern philanthropy. For example, grant making is a new practice in China. We have about 8,000 foundations in China, and less than 1% are grant making foundations. In comparison, there are over 80,000 foundations in the US, and over 95% of them are grant making foundations. So that means nonprofits in China are really struggling for funding. And then on the other end, I see purpose rising among individuals, and people are asking questions about purpose and impact for the first time. So, well, a very nascent social sector, then individuals asking or looking for impact. And this is the space where I see exactly giving circles fit in. So giving circles have all this, combine all these elements of learning, giving, serving, networking, making an impact. It's so flexible that you can move along the spectrum on each dimension. So that said, developing giving circles in China may take a different path and pace. And well, in one of the conversations I had with Bona, which whom you will hear next, and I coined this term giving circle plus. Well, it's like adding a giving component to existing social groups, such as book clubs or hiking groups or alumni associations. I'm sure Bona, I'll leave that to Bona for more details, or we can come to the Q&A. Well, as for my work with the youth, it's a strategic and deliberate choice. So why youth? Well, one reason is pretty obvious across the globe. And while not all of us adults think we need to learn to give, youth are natural learners, and they are curious, and they are passionate about making an impact. And meanwhile, we chose to focus on grant making. So our youth go through a very rigorous program of grant making because we have high expectations for them. So youth today in China, they are the first generation in China who grow up with this idea of and access to meaningful giving. So more specifically, we have three expectations for them. Number one, mobilize funding and resources to nonprofits because they have parents standing behind them. And number two, well, hopefully they would help raise awareness on grant making and maybe help reshape the giving culture in China. Well, if kids can do it, foundations, adults, you can do that too. And number three, we hope these youth can be the educational ambassadors to parents. So they can spark conversations and actions within the company, within the family. So speaking of success, I can't say any, as we have just started and we're still on the way. But the most exciting part of doing such work in China is that whatever you do, it's a country's first. And you know your work really matters in the long run. And it's really gratifying to see the sparks in people's eyes, be them adults or youth. And well, the challenging part is this work is really new and no reference, no benchmark. And sometimes it feels pretty lonely. And but fortunately, I've got support and inspirations from mentors and fellow educators along the way, at home and abroad. So shout out to Shanghai United Foundation and to Philanthropy Together, Learning to Give, Amplifier, and Learning by Giving McFIP in Michigan and IP in Indiana. And today, well, thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you, Helen. And I can certainly say we all wish you the best of luck and can't wait to see the youth take on philanthropy in China and hear the data and the stories that you collect. And you've got a community around the world behind you rooting you on.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Bona Zhang is also coming in from Shanghai and runs the Shanghai United Foundation. Bona, building off of Helen's comments, I'd love to hear your take on the philanthropic landscape in China. And in particular, how does the philanthropic sectors in giving circles differ, and how are they similar between US and China?
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Bona Zhang from Shanghai United Foundation. Actually, Helen and I we work quite closely on promoting collective giving in China. However, I would say I was involved or engaged in collective giving accidentally. 2 years ago, when I first started our major donor department within our foundation, the original focus was to introduce the giving tool Donor Advice Fund to China, getting it localized. But interesting thing is that it turns out to be totally different practice from the US. The main initiatives, instead of individuals and families, are actually groups, like Helen has mentioned. Those groups are normally existing groups with diversified labels. They may be members of the parents committee or female friends, teaching fellows in a university, and so on. And those groups have great intention to do something good. The establishment of Donor Advice Fund is a milestone for them. They start setting up a management committee to make decisions on major issues of the circle, and they may introduce democratic procedure into their decision-making process. And we, as a host organization, are there to be with them, supporting them and facilitating them. Unlike in the US, I would say the biggest difference or challenge is that we need to create dots for those members. Many dots are still missing while the giving circle already starts working. So by dots, I mean the personal connection with social issues, the knowledge of philanthropy, the awareness and the capability of making decisions together. All those dots need to be created. Take myself as an example. At my age of 30, I had my first donation and my first volunteer service. And by that time, I started building up my connection to philanthropy. And I believe that situation is not rare. So a lot of work needs to be done to create these dots for Giving Circle members and the donors. And even for many of the members, the concept of Giving Circle is relatively new. It's like you ride a bicycle directly on the road without practicing in your backyard. You need to figure out quickly the major principles to enable you ride safely. And this is our role to play. There's for sure enlightening parts. Our Giving Circle normally has natural engine. That is the group's social bundling. It's closer and dynamic. Can you imagine a Giving Circle gather almost every week and have different events going on? And all the activities are organized voluntarily by the group members. The group is already trust-based, and those trusts can be flowed among the members as well as to the grantees and other stakeholders. Those pioneers are just confident, passionate, and caring, and they're willing to donate strategically and share their social resources. There are a lot of such kind of group, friends, relatives, people in the clubs, MBA classes. Once the philanthropic module is attached, it will just pop up. There is a great chance that Giving Circles to be blossom in China in a couple years. That's why Helen and I, on behalf of our institutions, we would like to organize a week-long learning journey for our pioneers and enlightening them to influence more people to be engaged philanthropists. And we believe that the power is among those pioneers, and we together define future Giving Circle modules in China. Yeah, thank you. And that's what I want to share in the first place.
Wow, Bona, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you sharing that personal narrative of how, connection and relationship building and connection to social issues is so important to spark people's giving. And just wish you the best of luck, and also can't wait to see how your work unfolds. So now our tour around the world brings us to Chile, to Rosa Madera of Empatthy. Rosa, you are the founder of Empatthy, an organization, the first of its kind in Chile, to promote social impact and philanthropic giving. You're leading a generation of giving circles as a way to democratize philanthropy and show how female philanthropy is crucial to generate social change and work from the bottom up. Wow. What is the impact you are seeing on both the individuals in Chile involved in giving and the recipients in the nonprofit world from the giving that you're engaging with?
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Philanthropy Together, all the energy and vibrant team that Philanthropy Together has. Very happy to be here, to be invited for Sarah, and to have with all this experience with different persons from different places of the world. I am Rosa Madera, living in Chile. I'm from Spain. I'm mother of 3 kids. I'm global oriented. I'm in Chile, but all the time looking what is happening all over the world. I'm passionate about philanthropy. I'm working since many years. I did a big family foundation in Chile. They used to have supermarkets and they sold it to Walmart. So because that, I have to travel a lot around the world. And I saw that Chile was very bad. That was very bad. That should have more philanthropy, better philanthropy, more impactful philanthropy. So I created Empatthy 2016, promoting venture philanthropy, social impact, and helping to professionalize this sector that, as we know, is not like in the States or like in other countries. China has 8,000 foundations. Helen said here in Chile, we have 250 social organizations, but foundations, there are a lot, 17,000, but still we have not tax incentives. We have to professionalize the giving, how to do it. Many things are happening right now in the sector in Chile. In the pandemic was very good with the, in that case, not that the pandemic is good, but with the pandemic, the giving was explosion. Many people want to know about philanthropy, to know more. So it's a big happy time for empathy. And you know, the word empathy is getting more important. So when I create empathy, I didn't have a focus group. I didn't have anything. I said, what I want to call me, what I want to be, I want to more empathy in the world. So I'm going to be an empathy organization. So right now, empathy is very important. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy because right now I think it's very important for all of us. I think the sector, philanthropy sector, is getting very present, very visible, very more transparent. So many things to do and many things to articulate. It's the time for collaborating, not to work in silos, not to work with egos. We are in an ecosystem, no ego system. So it's very important also what is happening with giving circles. I can tell that right now I have Sarah in March in the Women Month. We made a big summit here in Chile. I had Sarah, I have Jenny Sager, I have Sondra, all the people that was working in giving circles and women in philanthropy. I had a big summit here and Sarah helped me a lot. We made different sessions with different persons and philanthropists and different organizations to show them what a giving circle is, because as also Helen and Bona said, is the moment that the people want to give back. The philanthropy is not only for rich people, it's not only for corporate, it's not only for some kind of social entrepreneurs that they want to change the world, that is okay. It's for everybody. We have, all of us, we have talent, we have time, we have treasure, the 3 T's, and we want to join and to help. And so when I knew about giving circles many years ago, I thought, oh my God, I like that for Chile, to democratize the philanthropy. Is why I started speaking with Sarah, and I'm so happy to be here, because it's the time to articulate, to collaborate, and to show that philanthropy, like in Latin America, is still, oh, philanthropy is the rich people. No, philanthropy is not the rich people. You are a philanthropy too. When you give a smile, when you help the neighbor, when you connect with other person, when you try to help people, it's more than that. Is that to be philanthropy? Philanthropists, and I think giving circle is a very good way to democratize, and also, as you know, also women and girls, we know that gender right now is very important, and also in Chile is happening. The big foundations that most of them are leading for women, but still you don't have projects oriented to women and girls. All the approaches are very general: health, environmental, early childhood, but where are the girls in that project? What are the approaches in that project? So it's what I'm thinking, that is very important, that all these philanthropists, the ones that have the money and the power and everything, they know also that they have to approach better the projects, more systematic, more bottom up, and all the things that the people that we are in philanthropy know, to show them how to do better philanthropy. So I'm very happy to it's not easy to be social entrepreneur. When I started 2016, before I was in a big family foundation, everybody put me the carpet. But when you start as a social entrepreneur to do this awareness and to speak with the people and to do changes, it's not easy to break paradigms. But I'm happy right now, because I think everybody's listening more. It's listening more, and they want to work together, and they know how to be more strategic. And yeah, the life is short, and there are many things to do. So very happy to be like action man or action woman in this case, but happy also to be more oriented. Chile is a little bit, sometimes they look in many things to the States, but sometimes they are very insular, because we are very, very far away. So I have to give them also all the times, all the tendencies, in order to improve our philanthropy. That I'm happy that we are improving our philanthropy. But so
amazing, Rosa. Thank you so much. And I think, you know, all of you, Helen, Bona, Rosa, are giving that message that philanthropy is accessible to everyone. And I think one of the most powerful messages I received was from one of my social justice idols here in America. She said, you know, you can give $1 and you're a philanthropist. So I think that, you know, resonates to everybody. We just need to give them the power to know every dollar, every amount, everybody can be a philanthropist. So thank you so much. I see some questions coming into the chat. Keep them coming, and we'll be able to address those at the end of our panel. And I'd love to hear from our audience. You know, open up that chat and tell us something that you've heard that you want to apply to your giving circle or that's swirling around in your head. Please feel free to share that in the chat. And next we're going over to Israel, to my friend and colleague, Jacob Satzman, who leads Gabriel Project Mumbai, and is a CEO of an NGO in India. And Jacob, our hearts, you know, certainly go out to everyone in India right now with what they're facing. You provide necessary services to underserved communities, especially in the informal urban settlements of Mumbai. I'd love to hear from the receiving end, from an NGO, how your organization has relationships with your donors and what the power of collective giving can have on your organization.
Thanks, Amy. Yes, we are very grateful receivers of funds from collective giving. My name is Jacob Sztokman. I'm the founding director of Gabriel Project Mumbai, which is a development organization working in low resource communities in India. And we run schools and medical clinics, health initiatives, livelihood programs, and nutrition projects. As a grassroots NGO working not only with underserved and marginalized communities, but from within these communities, we focus on our staff as leaders of the communities they're in. So we hire from within the low resource neighborhoods or slums and from within remote rural tribal groups. Perhaps like other organizations, our staff is part of the community. They are the change makers of the community. They are the community. So in other words, we operate much like a family, cousins, uncles, mothers, siblings. And it's in this way that traditional institutional grant-making process has a disadvantage, while giving circles have an important value to the work we do. You see, giving circles, from my perspective, are more personal. And the way to connect with our communities and the families is through personal relationships between giving circles and the people who are working towards a brighter future for themselves. We see the top-down approach of traditional giving as, of course, being very important, but lacking that connection between communities and between people. This emotional distance makes the philanthropic process sterile and detached. And again, in my opinion, these types of institutional funding are often based on cold criteria, you know, matrices and extensive reporting and business principles like that double-edged sword of sustainability and ROI, what is our return on investment? While these may be noble goals, I feel that impact based on detachment is less robust than when giving circles really connect with the communities that they are giving to. And this connection gives collective giving a lot of power to the participants, the NGO, us, and the community. We all know here that giving circles and collective giving have some prevailing benefits for the participants, for its members. Education, a large group of people now are learning about the needs of a community, the historical and current reasons for the problems faced by a community. Spreading awareness, there's a lot of understanding, researching that giving circles need to do in order to give funds that they are collecting. And they want to tell other people about what they learned. Passion, all you guys, all your members, become impassioned about the philanthropy they do, making a more engaged society, and more tangible impact by raising more funds through collective giving. But what about the beneficiaries of giving circles? And we've seen interaction between giving circles and the community as an empowering process for the community. They are no longer silent. They are taking matters into their own hands. They are the ones initiating and implementing the programs, and they are proud to tell their story and share their successes. it becomes an empowering process, an equalizing process, and a more democratic process. I just want to end with the story that 3 years ago at a meeting of a women's giving circle in Denver, Colorado, we organized a Zoom conference with a young woman, Priya, from our NGO, who was discussing our work as an educator for children in one of our schools in a particular slum. To see Priya's face full of pride for her work, talking to people around the world who were captivated by her words, enthralled with her passion, well, that was an empowering moment for Priya that she would never forget. And 3 years later, she's the head of our entire school in that particular slum. And by the way, that giving circle donated 3 times what they set out to raise, making a greater impact on the lives of so many, including Priya and her family. That's the power of giving circles to an NGO, creating greater impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. That was absolutely beautiful and so inspiring to hear just the connection and the relationship and power on both ends of the recipient and the giver and how strong that bond can be. Just such an incredible story. Thank you so much. And now we're heading over to Silvia in Mexico, halfway across the world from Israel. We will spin the globe. In your work with Amigos de San Cristobal, you utilize philanthropy not only as a tool for impact, but a tool to raise awareness and make change agents in your local community. Can you discuss how this idea was received in your community and how you got Giving Circles started and the impact they're having on your local community?
Sure, Amy, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Philanthropy Together team. I'm Silvia Coca. I work as a coordinator of the local and national giving circles with Amigos de San Cristobal, a community foundation based in the highlands of Chiapas in the south of Mexico. About your question, well, an important point, it was around the concept of philanthropy. I think it's important to clarify that since the beginning, both internally with our community foundation and also in our work directly with the community via the given circles, our starting point is to redefine philanthropy from a concept that has roots in economic injustice to co-construct an idea of community philanthropy. To us, this extension revolves around recognizing traditional community philanthropy practices and bringing in new actors who are committed to this practice to advance social justice and equity in the highlands of Chiapas. For example, some of the best practices that our community philanthropy program rests on are from the Mije indigenous group that resides in what is known as the state of Oaxaca, like the concept of tequio. This is a practice very similar to mutual aid. Other best practices are based in local Maya, Celtal, and Tzotzil, practices that are native to the region where we work in Chiapas, like Comonatel or Comonampel, depending on the language. These community philanthropy practices underscores the importance of the land and territory, which deserve the dignity and respect both with and without the community, and is practiced by the community through solidarity and giving back to the earth what is abundantly provided. So we are still in that stage now of redefining and reappropriating these ideas at the heart of our work. And at times they have met with some resistance. As you might imagine, as with all colonized countries, there is a long history of white supremacy here in Mexico. But we are committed to working hand in hand with our Giving Circle members to deconstruct those narratives. Members of our Giving Circles come from all different backgrounds, ethnicities, languages, and countries of origin. We start them then by focusing on those different identities. We have 6 circles in total. 2 are with Maya people, 1 is with expats, others with folks from all around Mexico and locally, and 1 is made up with people from abroad with ties to the region. Something important to note is that I'm only one of the 4 coordinators that do this work with the Giving Circles. Each of us have identities that align with the folks that make up each circle, so that as a part of the host organization to a wide range of Giving Circle members, we can be responsive to their unique needs as we take this journey together towards advancing equity and narratives of community philanthropy, justice, reciprocity, as well as recognition of the Giving Circle members as change agents. I will also mention that all of us coordinators are women, as a vast majority of our Giving Circle members, which also harbors a resemblance to this panel, actually, and that goes into the narrative change around who holds power and who can be change agent in their community. The medium to long-term impact of our Giving Circles is yet to be seen. As I mentioned, we are still in the preliminary stages of this work, and it's a pilot program for our community foundation, and is constantly redefining. But our members have already started mobilizing time, talent, and treasure. We are excited about the second half of the year when members from each circle will be part of the future grantee selection committee, where we all pool the philanthropy resources and decide together with Amigos de Cristobal where it should go, what local nonprofit working in the highlands of Chiapas should receive them. Right now, members are virtually and in person when possible meeting with the current community foundation grantees to learn more about their work so they can deepen their understanding of social justice issues facing the community and how to be responsive in their giving and engage beyond their gift.
Wow, Silvia, thank you so much. And especially for that historical context, you know, we sometimes forget about those barriers that might keep people from entering into philanthropy, and your focus on the local community and women is truly inspiring, and I can't wait to see where your work takes you. Last but certainly not least, we're going to hear from Rob John from St. Andrews University, calling in from the UK. And after Rob speaks, we'll open this up for open dialogue and conversation. So Rob, you conducted extensive research on giving circles within Asia and have collected interesting data on both their impact on the participants and the nonprofit sector. Can you share with us some of the data and what it revealed about collective giving?
Thank you, Amy. Thanks very much. And greetings from Cambridge in England. I've been in the philanthropy sector now for more than 20 years and have tended to blend sort of practice and research. My yin yang has always been between practicing and between doing research. So I ran a venture philanthropy fund. I helped create 2 philanthropy networks and also held research posts at business schools in Oxford and Singapore. Now, since 2014, while I was in Singapore, I really developed quite an interest in giving circles. I'd heard of them long before that, back in 2000, when I first became aware of social venture partners in the US. But in 2017, as part of research I was doing in Singapore, I started to document the rise and development of giving circles in the region. And in fact, in 2017, I identified and documented 66 giving circles in 11 different countries. And at the back of my mind, I always had a sort of research question, which was, how does joining a giving circle change a person's experience of philanthropy? And part of the research which I then did was a survey of 35 of those giving circles in 8 countries in Asia, and that involved surveying 188 giving circle members. And what I want to do now is to just give you the 3 key takeaways from that survey and offer you a resource if you want to find out more. Now, my research supports that becoming a member of a giving circle enhances knowledge, attitude, and practice of the individual. And I'll give you some numbers. Under knowledge, 86% of giving circle members feel better informed about social issues and about the non-profit sector in general. 83% of giving circle members better understood giving and how to give more effectively. In terms of attitude, 87% of Giving Circle members developed a more positive attitude about the work of nonprofits as a result of being active members of the Giving Circle. And so here's my high-tech graphic, and nearly 9 out of 10 individuals had enhanced knowledge and were more positive in their attitude to nonprofits. And in terms of practice, 55% of Giving Circle members said that they gave more as a result of joining a Giving Circle. 58% are more focused and more strategic in the way that they give. And 58% are also more engaged with their communities. There you go. Over half of Giving Circle members improved their practice of giving and were better connected to their own communities. And this research out of Singapore, as I say, for 8 countries which I sampled, is in line with similar research that has been done earlier in the US, in the UK, and in Australia. So those are the 3 takeaways. And the resource which I offer is that if any of you are interested in looking at that research in more detail, the original research papers, 20 or 30 case studies which I've done on Giving Circles in Asia, and a number of general articles, then please visit my website, which is www.givingcircles.asia. And there you can get lost in all the detail of the survey and the academics. And I think just in closing, I will say that most of my 20-odd years in philanthropy research and practice has been focused on very wealthy individuals, and particularly individuals who are wealth creators and entrepreneurs who have a kind of active venture philanthropy approach. And I must admit, it really opened my eyes back in 2014 when I started to look at the unlocking of potential when people get together and give together, not just their money, but also their time and their talent. And I was curious about whether Giving Circles can offer the kind of engaged and impactful philanthropy that we associate mostly with organized, professional, institutional giving like foundations and venture philanthropy funds. And certainly the research and data I have is that indeed it does have that kind of opportunity for people to give with impact, intelligently, and going back to Jakob's point, with a relational point of view rather than a transactional one. Thank you.
So much, Rob. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone that having all of you at the forefront of collective giving, philanthropy has a very bright future. So now we want to open it up to all of you for questions and comments. I'm going to invite all of you to put in the chat, start with the phrase, ask me about, and share with this group some of your skills or expertise that people can lean on and follow up with you following this conversation. So feel free. I'm going to start with one question that was put in the chat from Ian, but you can unmute yourself or put a question in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. But we want to hear from you and have you engage with our speakers. So Ian wrote earlier that he was curious, for those who are looking to other countries and more established philanthropy cultures as a model, how do things, like what works well and what works differently when you try to adopt models from other countries, and what new innovations have you implemented that work with your cultures and communities?
Well, I think I will just share one failure story. So I used to, when I started this philanthropy education in China, I thought we could just take what works in the States and adapt them in China. But so one of the examples was, so we had this philanthropy course for middle school students, and then the course itself went very well. But it turned out after the course is done, we couldn't find the teachers to teach it. So that was the situation. That was that was not working because most of the educators in China, they didn't even have the volunteering experience themselves. So we made a good course, but we couldn't find good people to teach it. That's like one example as like it's that didn't work out in China. But and that's just something like as I said, the whole climate was different, the culture was different. And then the other thing we have learned, maybe Bona can add to that, you just can't push people. You can't just like, you really, like for us, we have to really meet people where they are. I know giving circles are good. And I know connective giving is good, but you just can't just drag people where we think is good. It really, like, people want social, and if people want to learn, and we have to really meet where they are. But then as I said, one thing I have found, although maybe the political system is different and the sector is different, and but I think people are the same. Like, we all love to give, we want to give back, we all want a better world for us and for the next generation. And I think that's a basis for what we can learn from other countries and share best practices. So I think, well, that's my failure story.
Thank you, Helen, for bringing your full self. And I think your failure led you to success, as it often does. So we appreciate that insight. Feel free, would anybody else like to ask a question of our audience? You can go ahead and unmute yourself or put something in chat. I think Rob had his hand up. Rob, did you have your hand up?
I think I was a day late and a dollar short there. I actually just wanted to respond to the previous question very, very quickly, and to say that when we looked at the 66 giving circles in Asia, they divided broadly into transplanted ones and indigenous ones. The transplanted ones really had a heritage from the US or the UK or other countries, but they also very strongly adapted their model. So it was transplantation with adaptation. And example I can throw out is that Impact 100, which is a very strong giving circle, women's giving circle network in the US and elsewhere. When they set up in Australia, they said it's a great model, we want to do that, but we actually want to have mixed gender. So indeed, from day one, they became a men and a women's giving circle. So great example of adapting to what people think is relevant where they are at. And again, my website has tons of case studies about that kind of adaptation to success.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. So unfortunately, we are at time, but the conversation does not end here. There are weeks more of amazing, incredible programming, and we encourage you to hop over to the community forum where you can connect with individuals, with our speakers, ask more questions, create a time outside of the space to connect and learn from one another. So I encourage you to go check out the community forum. I also encourage you, every Wednesday for the next few weeks will be Wellness Wednesday. We hope you'll join the group for some breathing exercises today. I think we could all use that from this year that we've had. And lastly, we really appreciate any and all feedback and welcome you to fill out the survey on this session. And we just can't thank all of our speakers for staying up late, waking up early, whatever time zone you're in, and sharing your wealth of wisdom. And we wish you all the best of luck in your Giving Circle adventures, and look forward to seeing all your faces over the next few weeks at this amazing We Give Summit. So thank you to everybody and enjoy the day and the weeks to come.